Good day, members of the press. Yesterday we met as the Citizens National Assembly on an extraordinary basis and came up with the following positions and resolutions. The CNA met to deliberate on the political and economic developments in the country and noted the deepening political crisis that threatens the very fabric of our country. The Assembly noted the spiraling economic decay in the country. The cost of living continues to increase beyond the reach of the majority. The value of the currency continues to deteriorate against the US dollar and other currencies within the multi-currency basket to the detriment of the people's buying power. The cholera outbreak remains the biggest health scare with no tangible solutions from the illegitimate government of the day. The human rights situation is continuing to deteriorate with cases of abduction, harassment, torture, and forced disappearances increasing. A case in point is the reported case of the abduction and torture of student representatives at Chinhoyi University, Valentine Zico, during their campaigns. The persecution by prosecution of our MP, former Vuku, Honorable Kufa Akuzivi, abuse of state institutions. The Assembly further noted the unrelenting onslaught on the will of the people of Zimbabwe by the ZANU-PF regime and the continued abuse of state institutions such as Parliament, Zimbabwe Election Commission, in subverting the electoral processes. The Assembly resolved to demand that government must stop wasteful expenditure including unlawful by-elections and redirect resources to the pressing needs of the citizens, in particular the dilapidated healthcare system. The Assembly resolved not to recognize the unlawful conduct and outcome of the December 9 by-elections and directed the appropriate bureaus to seek the setting aside of the charant. The CNA reiterates that Mr. Chabangu is not a member or the Secretary General of the party, as the party has no such position, and resolved to bar him from using the party symbol, the brand, the logo, and any other property of the party. The Assembly resolved to further consult with the citizens on the party's continued participation in Parliament and local authorities. The Assembly adopted a political program and a roadmap to legitimacy. The statement has come to the end. I will ask Honorable Agent Gumbo here to come in and give us an explanation on the state of our legal cases and what has transpired in the courts before we open for question and answer session. Honorable.
Thank you very much, Champion Mkwananzi. I must first start by reiterating that the position that we have taken as a party is that we shall not abandon our legal processes or our legal actions in a quest to resolve the ongoing issues around capture of the people's will, around restoring democratic tenets in this country. We believe in the courts as institutions of the Constitution. Many may ask, why do you continue to go to courts when you get, or you continue to get adverse rulings and adverse findings against the party? Courts are creatures of the Constitution. And as a party, we believe in constitutionalism. We do reserve our right, however, to disagree with some of the findings that the courts may arrive at. We do reserve our rights to make comments where we believe and where we think that there is an overarching effect of the executive in the judiciary. we do reserve our rights to continuously state our position in regards to the findings that the courts continue to make. Just as a quick update on the court matters that we have had, you would know, firstly, that there is a judgment which was granted on an interim basis by Justice Chitapi, which judgment has the effect of stopping Mr. Sengezo Chavangu from writing to the Speaker of Parliament, writing to the Minister of Local Government, or effecting any recourse against members of the Citizens Coalition for Change. And this relief is on an interim basis pending the determination of a case which seeks to deal with the question of his legitimacy, the question of his authority to represent the CCC. So that judgment is extant, and that judgment, we believe, will be upheld by whosoever is affected by it. We have, as a party, taken issue with certain decisions that have been made by our High Court, particularly a judgment which was handed down by Justice Mutevezi, which judgment focused on the initial recalls, the challenge by our honorable members who were illegally and fraudulently recalled, which judgment essentially sought to say that Mr. Sengezo Chavangu, can act on behalf of the party, or sought to say that the actions by Mr. Chavangu were above board. But again, what we have said is that is a judgment that was made in error, and we have taken that matter up on appeal, and that appeal is pending before the Supreme Court. And until the determination of that appeal, I must end the debate. The noting of the appeal suspends the operation of any finding and any ruling and any judgment which would have been made by the lower court. You would also note that there is a recent court judgment which was made and delivered by Justice Katillo. That particular judgment had the effect of removing our candidates from the 9 December by-election. Sengezo Chavangu and company approached the courts, claiming that the candidates who had been duly nominated by the nomination court had been so nominated irregularly. We opposed that application, and unfortunately, it was granted by Justice Katillo. We have since again appealed against that judgment. But here is the most interesting thing about that particular judgment by Justice Katillo. The appeal against the said judgment was done immediately after the order was made available to us as a party and to the litigants. And the effect of the appeal, if the Musa Kika versus Luke Malawa case is anything to go by, the appeal suspended Justice Katillo's judgment. And we were shocked to then receive news that there was an urgent chamber application which had been filed by Mr. Sengezo Chavangu et al., seeking to execute the judgment by Katillo pending our appeal. And this comes at the backdrop of a narrative that had been pushed by Chavangu and et al., that the appeal did not suspend the operation of the Katillo judgment. We engaged the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Letters were written to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission advising them of the said appeal, advising them that they must not remove our candidates from the ballot paper. And nicodemously, and I say nicodemously because it was done in the dead of the night, we hear that a matter had been set down in which an urgent chamber application for execution pending appeal was to be heard. We take issue with the processes, and we take issue with how that happened. Why? Because number one, the interested parties in that particular application were not a party to the hearing. And I say not a party to the hearing because here I was representing the Citizens Coalition for Change. The application was filed Sunday night at my office. The other litigants were represented by Mbizo, Muchada, Hama, and Makoni, legal practitioners, who also received an application in the dead of the night. And were only advised through the registrar of the High Court that there was a case management meeting before Justice Muzenda Friday night. Only one of our lawyers were advised, and only one of our lawyers appeared in a virtual court hearing. They thought it was a case management. Turns out it was not case management, it was an actual hearing. But the thing is, the lawyer, Mr. Jeremiah Bamu, who was appearing in that matter, was not the man reposed with instructions to represent the litigants, and this fact was made known to the court, but nonetheless, the court decided to proceed and determine the application for execution pending appeal. Hence, the granting of that order somewhere towards midnight, and shockingly, the very morning, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission was ready with ballot papers which had our candidates removed on it for the 9 December by-election. So we take issue with how these processes were conducted, and we have taken the necessary legal steps to address our discontent, to address our objections to this judgment. It has now been taken also under appeal. We have appealed against the Mtevedzi judgment, we have appealed against the Katia judgment, and we have also taken necessary steps through the Judicial Service Commission. We are taking necessary steps in the Registrar's Office. We are taking necessary steps within the confines of the rules of the court to challenge the decision to execute the judgment pending our appeal. That is the status of our case. This Friday, there is a matter that is appearing before Justice Kwenda, and I will not delve much into that matter because it is a matter that is pending and is pending argument. I will not risk arguing the case on this podium. But that is a matter, between the Citizens Coalition for Change and our 22 recalled candidates against the Speaker of Parliament, the President of the Senate, and now, we were surprised to hear of the joining of Mr. Sengezo Chavangu and what he is terming the Citizens Coalition for Change. That matter is pending determination and shall be decided after the Friday's hearing. Thank you very much.
The pressure for the Citizens Coalition for Change to withdraw its MPs from Parliament as well as in local authorities. Are you considering withdrawing? Are you going to withdraw? And if you are withdrawing, what is your strategy after withdrawal? And if not withdrawing, what is the strategy of not withdrawing?
Okay. So another question. Okay. I think we stated in the statement that extensive consultations are underway in terms of our participation in Parliament. And as those consultations are underway, there are programs and processes that are going to be unveiled, which are going to complement or augment the parliamentary process. As you've already heard, we've got various sides of struggles. We are fighting in the courts. Yes, there are issues. People may talk about the compromise of the judiciary, but we feel that it's important to produce that body of evidence of the compromised state of our courts so that everybody can know, and to continue to pile pressure on the need for the necessary reforms to straighten up our institutions, including the judiciary, the Zimbabwe Election Commission, and others. Parliament, the Citizens Coalition for Change was voted into Parliament by citizens. We note the pressure coming from the public, particularly Twitter and others, on withdrawal. But it's a decision that needs the party to thoroughly apply itself. As we apply ourselves to that decision, we are going to consult with all the relevant stakeholders, including the voters who voted for these people. We are going to see quite a lot of activity in constituencies that were denied the opportunity to vote for candidates of their choice, for example. There are going to be activities taking place there with the constituency voters demanding their right to vote, demanding their MPs back, demanding that if there is a by-election, people have a right to be voted for as well as to vote for candidates of their choice. So those are other processes that are ongoing. How long it will take to make this consultation, we will be notifying you. Importantly though, is that we are embarking on a program of action or a roadmap to political legitimacy in Zimbabwe. I think that is going to be the focus of the party, and that should be the focus of every Zimbabwean, to say what are the milestones and signposts that will lead to the restoration and the return to legitimacy in Zimbabwe. Mr. Mnangagwa did not win the elections. This position is affirmed by every election observer mission that was in this country. And it remains our position as the Citizens Coalition for Change that Mr. Mnangagwa is there on a de facto and a caretaker basis. We want to see a process that will lead to a national dialogue with a view to resolving the illegitimacy crisis that continues to haunt this country. We want to see a political process that will lead to a political settlement that will allow for the conduction of a credible, free and fair election. I think that this is a position that is shared not just within the CCC, but as well as within the generality of the people of Zimbabwe, the international community, the Southern African Development Community, which adopted a clear position that the elections in Zimbabwe were not a true manifestation of the will of the Zimbabwe. So, we are not going to be focused on Parliament alone, because we also understand that the shenanigans being done in Parliament are meant to divert the attention of the party from its primary and core objective, which is to ensure the return of this country to legitimacy. Yes.
Okay, mine is probably to the lawyer. You spoke about petitioning the Speaker of Parliament and the President of the Senate regarding reversals of some of the decisions that were taken in recalling some of your CCC members. I just want you to explain to me what you seek to achieve, because from the previous Parliament, there was one member who lost an election but lived out the life of the last Parliament as an MP. Do you foresee the Speaker, the very same Speaker who did not reverse that initial decision, this time around changing and going the other way regarding your petition?
Well, thank you very much for that question, but I believe you did not properly appreciate or understand my submission in respect of the petition. We have not petitioned the Speaker of Parliament. We have not petitioned the President of the Senate. Why? Because we believe that processes that were undertaken in Parliament were undertaken. You know, the attempts that we have made as a party to legally engage the Speaker of Parliament and the President of the Senate have not yielded any positive result. And as a result, we have taken our issues to the courts. So the matter which we have with the Speaker of Parliament and with the President of the Senate is a matter which is before our courts of law to deal with and to decide. It is not up to the Speaker, it is not up to the President of the Senate this time around. It is up to the courts, which shall hear our case, which shall hear our argument, and equally hear the case and arguments that shall be made by Parliament itself, and come up with a determination. So we are not expecting any reversal from the Speaker without that court order. Hence, we have approached the courts of law. I hope I have answered.
Yes.
Okay, may you please explain what you mean by saying you won't recognize the 9th December by-elections? Because I understand there are some councillors who already claim their seats. So does it mean that they won't be sworn in?
Thank you very much. I'll start with the SADC question. The official position of the party is that we are fully applied to the SADC process. And we continue to call upon SADC to play a positive role in helping Zimbabwe to find a soft landing. The Zimbabwe crisis has extensive ramifications and implications on the region. And it is important for SADC leaders to note that imperative point. As we speak, the issue of migration is a major electoral issue in the upcoming elections in South Africa, primarily because of the influx of Zimbabweans who go to South Africa for political and economic reasons. The same with Botswana, you saw the issue about the passports and so on and so forth. So the region has a burden which stems out of irresponsible conduct of the government of Zimbabwe. And it was up to the regional leaders to call out Mr. Mnangagwa so that his problems do not extend to become their problems. Mr. Mnangagwa has an obligation to follow the laws of our country. And SADC is there to ensure that should there be some non-compliance of sort. As a good example, the case of the elections in Zimbabwe clearly did not comply with the minimum standards expected by SADC on free and fair elections. Neither did they comply with our domestic laws, including the constitution and the laws that govern the electoral processes in the country. Furthermore, the conduct of the judiciary demonstrates that there is no viable domestic remedy for an aggrieved party in elections in Zimbabwe. And therefore it means that now SADC has the basis to help Zimbabwe resolve these problems. Coming to the issue of the by-elections which were just conducted, we are talking specifically about members of parliament because it is the members of parliament who were directly disenfranchised by the court ruling, the misdirected ruling of the court. Streamer Petition will tell the truth. The misdirected ruling of the court disenfranchised both our candidates as well as the voters. And in an election where other contestants were not allowed to contest, the election became a nullity. Not to mention the fact that the by-election, the recalls themselves were not supposed to have taken place. They remain a nullity. And this party is going to do everything it can to stop these unlawful, illegal recalls, whose objective we fail to understand. We don't understand why there is a necessity to do what is being done by Mr. Mnangagwa and the cost implications of these by-elections. You pour out $5 million into an election and you deny people the right to choose. You deny candidates the right to participate. So it's basically money that has been thrown under, whereas this money could actually be taken and redirected and redeployed in other pressing needs of the nation. We've got cholera. We've got a dysfunctional health system. But of course, Mr. Mnangagwa is preoccupied with the retention of power and not with the well-being of the people of Zimbabwe. Are there any questions?
Maybe you can give us the each one, just summarizing each one.
Ah, okay. Summarize what? Okay. Dare guru remusangano weTCCC rakasangana rikazeya nyaya dzakatarisana neZimbabwe, matambudziko akatarisana nevanhu vemuZimbabwe ari kukonzerwa nebato reZANU-PF navaMnangagwa. Mudare iri takatarisa zvikuru nyaya yekuti bato redu rinofanira kuramba ririmo here mudare guru reparamende yeZimbabwe. Tikati aiwa hatingaiti zvegurwe, tichaenda tonobvunza vanhu, tonzwa kuti vanhu vanoti chii, tozodzoka kwamuri tichikutaurirai budikidzo inenge yabuda munenge zvataurwa nevanhu. Chechipiri ndechekuti tabuda nechirongwa achinga tine chirongwa political program ichaunveiliwa neparty ichaita kuti tiise pressure kuhurumende yeZANU-PF, tiise pressure kuna Mnangagwa neZANU-PF kuti vazive kuti vanofanira kuti vachida vasingadi vauye kuzoita nhaurirano nebato rinotungamirwa navachamisa reCCC rinova ndiro rakanga rakakunda musarudzo dzakazobiwa. Saka program iyoyo ichatanga mazuva mashoma anotevera yekufamba, tichange tichikutsanangura hedu zvinofamba sei, zvimwe zvacho hatizotauri hedu pamanewspaper nepamedia, asi tinofanira kuzivikanwa nenyika yeZimbabwe ndechekuti nguva yekuti tiise pressure yekuti zvinhu zvedu zvifambe zvakanaka munyika munomu yasvika. Sindebele besihlangeneke lapha njengedale elikhulu ele-CCC Citizens Coalition for Change elithiwa yi-Citizen National Assembly. Sihluza ke udaba oluhlangana lelizwe lethu, ikakhulu indaba yokuthi kulama recalls ayenziwayo angekho emthethweni, kukhitshwa ama-members ethu ayekhethwe ngabantu kuhle kuparliament, kufakwa laba abafunwa ngumnankagwa kuma by-elections akhona abantu bethu besaliswa ukuthi bancintise okungekho emthethweni. So sizayihluza lindaba siyifake kuZulu, siphume lempumela yokuthi kambe senze njani, siphume yini eparliament kumbe sibe silokho sikhona. Nxa sesiqedile ama consultations esizawenza lo Zulu jikelele, sizajika njalo kini silazisa ukuthi iposition ethethwe yiparty ngiyokuthini. Okwesibili ngokuthi sithe thina asingeke simelele iparliament kuphela ukulwisa indaba le lama courts lizwile igqwetha likhuluma lapha, siza khipha njalo uhlelo olukhulu esingathi ngesilungu program of action ekuyangena ebantwini sikhuthaza abantu ukuthi sekumele sizimele, sekumele sigoqe sigwinye siqine ngoba silwa lo muntu ongelandaba lathi. Sifuna ukuthi amalungelo ethu okuvota aphendukiswe, ama constituencies lapha abantu bethu abalisa ukuvota khona. Sifuna ukubona abantu besukuma bebhala ama petition besenza abakwenzayo ukuthi besenza ngokuthula kodwa bedemanda ukuthi uhulumende avumele abantu ukuthi bakhethe abakhokheli baba babafunayo, hatshi ababe bafakele bona bona.